And we're live! Hello Internet, Flip for the win here. Back with another map musing, this time on Conveyance, RC3B by Alexa. Oh, I'm super excited to do this map. I originally gave a brief overview of this map. I don't even think I really wrote any of my real thoughts in it, because it was one of the maps put forward for TF2 Maps Featured Maps contest, or not contest, but they have a thread, they ask you what maps you think are good or bad. I never heard of this map before, and some people who I'm close friends with had, and they told me I should really give it a look. So this is that look. My main criticism of this map is that I think it's a defensive mid, and that is simply just not what I like in Koth. And to really go over what that means, I don't really think I can avoid talking about Koth fundamentals, so that's what I'm going to do. So Koth is a timer-centric game mode, unarguably, right? One team always owns the point, and that team that owns the point is going to be risk-adverse. They're going to play conservative and cowardly. And the team that doesn't own the point, I like to call the team that's attacking attackers and the team that owns the point defenders. The attacking team, the aggressors, time is not on their side, so they're going to do everything they can to try to create an imbalance, push through, and eventually become the ones who own the point. So there's an important distinction to understand here. In 5CP, especially 6s, you generally attack off pure incentive, off advantages in player numbers, uber advantages, or who owns the mid, because you have a positional advantage. In Koth, it's purely based off who has control of the timer, who has control of the mid. Okay, so with that out of the way, now I think you're in a position to understand that Koth should be a back and forth. The way I love Koth, that I think the way Koth should be played, is when you own the point, you're expected to eventually lose the point. The beauty, and the only factor in question, is how much time you can stall, how much time you can claw away with these small optimizations that results in you winning by a hair. So to reiterate, Koth that I dislike is lockdown Koth. In a lockdown Koth, what happens is you have a forward hold that is a bunker. It's something a team really has to push through, and they really struggle to push through. I think the way Koth should work, your forward hold, you extending past the point to hold the enemy team's half of the map, should be tenuous. It should only exist to harass players and stall for that time. It should not be something that they have to deliberately and hard push through. And the difference is in game modes as well. So for an attack defense map, you are allowed to have tough to push chokes, because it's really on the attacking team to get 4 or 5 or 6 pushes, and that's how many they get based off the timer to break that hold. But in Koth, when it's timer-centric, having that forward hold and having no reason not to establish that forward hold is incredibly brutal. The attacking team only needs to push once to win an attack and defense, but in Koth, when you have it back and forth, especially when the forward holds are reestablished multiple times, it can just feel incredibly brutal and really, really frustrating if you're not the one who's initially defending or tapping the point. So for Conveyance, the final conclusion that I would say, overarching conclusion, is that this forward hold is so powerful, you might not even see the point in a 3-minute lockout. And that is just, it's just really, really miserable to be in a position to put in for competitive or in pubs. So in terms of how to fix that, that's what the root of this video I really want to talk about is, but there's really 3 ideas I think I have in mind. One of them is going to be to make the attacker routes stronger, and I have 2 suggestions for that. Another one is to make the defensive position weaker, and that is going to be centered around this shed. So in terms of like main, huge overarching route ideas, I'm not doing my normal video structure because I want to get these out of the way first. I think these are really important. I think this shed is the primary culprit of what I would call 2-choke design, where from this position, I can very easily lock out the choke, I can very easily lock out the flank, and there's really no recourse to this. You really just have to fight these players straight up. They have easy retreat, they have easy cover, they have easy teammates, and I can talk about that later on when I needle about the routes. But the way you fix this is by cutting this high ground. So in terms of making the defender route weaker, this needs to not have as strong of a hold over the main choke. There's several ways of doing that. In terms of making the attacking route stronger, I think the outside pass route here could give you some high ground over this route, but I really don't know how you manage the sightlines that way. The other potential suggestion is having this route here, this flank route, have a better inset into the map. It's a very, very weak flank route now, and I'll go over that later, but it's primarily because it's so exposed. Okay. So I gave you the huge overarching takeaway. If you have 5 minutes for some reason and you're watching this video, that's all you should watch. I gave you a Koth overview as well, so hopefully you can kind of understand the perspective I'm coming from better now. Now we go into the needling. I'm going to back up, walk through the map slowly, and we're going to walk through my thought process, and I'll try to explain a bit more of detail things. I'll save nitpicks for the very end. Okay, so red spawn. I really like Side opening spawn doors. I don't know why more maps don't use these. I could talk for 30 minutes about the implications of having side opening spawn doors, but for the most part, just know that I like them. I think they're a cool feature. I think the amount of exits your spawn is nice. I think the way you spawn is nice. And these routes are all really cleanly, nicely presented. So I'm going to go left to right, standard format here. I'll try to stick with it. But this left route, approaching what I call your staging area, I've ranted about the staging area before. Your staging area is your pre-push area. It's where you mass up, where your team is wiped, and you're trying to regroup to have a really nice, clean push together. The staging area is where that is. So the staging area is attacker owned, where it's easy to defend. If the people on the point aggress into it, it's easy for them to get wiped, and that way I can have a nice mass up without being constantly spawn camped. So this is a really nice route. This left route is really, really nice. I like it a lot, where it gives you ownership over this entire space really easily. But one small thing about it is it actually negates the purpose of this route, because they watch over the same area, and this one comes out in a worse sightline, and it's also more awkward to rotate to, because you see that kind of, I have to do like an L to get to it. So this route is good, but I also think it makes this route dead space and a little bit obsolete. Your main route, I think, is completely fine. Probably the fastest route, least awkward route, most open door, obviously coming out on low ground, but not an issue if you have other people in the other routes to protect it. The right route, I take some small issue with, and a lot of it is flow, maybe a little bit of it is design. So one of the things about the left route drop-down, this is a drop-down, right? But you can clear the area in front of the drop-down, and that's not really an issue. If you look at the right route instead, the right route drop-down, I can't really tell if that door is being spawn camped by a sniper, by a demo, maybe there's traps on this back wall, maybe there's traps on that door. I don't know any of the threats. I can't perform an accurate assessment, right? The other thing is the routing itself is very ugly. If I'm half-half here, so you see I'm approaching it from the pipe and the walkway, I get caught on this. I'll go over clip brushes at the very end on my nitpicks, but this makes this very awkward, right? And then if I want to hug the left wall, right, I just want to double jump, I'm a scout, I can go up, I'm hugging the left wall, I actually hit a clip brush here as well. And then if I'm backing up, I also hit a model back here. So you can see there's so many things. This is a very clunky route, I feel. And then especially because you have an L outward and then a downward drop, right? You can see how awkward that is when I have to go like L upward. And then another just small nitpick thing. This is only one of the 9 classes, but I'm playing Scout. If I hold W here, I didn't give a good example there. But if I hold W out that door, I actually hit my head on the door, and you saw me accidentally dropping backwards, by the way. Another kind of like clunky routing, just kind of making it really, really awkward to exit out this door. So I think that could be streamlined. There's no reason for it to be, I think, that claustrophobic. Maybe you feel like you're pressed for space, but I think it's really important, especially out of your spawn. I just talked about how Koth is a timer-centric game mode. It's nice to have a highway. Pig uses that term, I love it, to have a highway into your staging area, a highway into the point, right? And this is just not it. Or if it is a highway, it's a highway that's got a few turns on it. So, moving forward, let's talk a little bit about the routes. I mentioned before, this is essentially a 2-choke, and we'll go over the routes one by one. So this left choke, I mentioned, it's kind of exposed. Right? I think that's the one word I'd use, exposed or open. And if I go this left route, you can see there's a sight line here. I'm going to put a statue here really to emphasize this point here for you, right? So let's say the defensive sniper is right here. He's facing that way. He sees there, right? If I come out this doorway, that sniper has a shot on me. I deleted him by accident. That sniper has a shot on me. If he misses, that's fine. I can keep going. Nice. On Lakeside, that sniper gets one shot on you crossing into Bathhouse. If he misses it, you're in Bathhouse, you can rotate back and forth. Maybe he has you locked, but the point is he gets one shot. If I keep rotating, he gets another shot on me. By necessity, I can't dodge this. I'm constantly going left, or I'm going into him, which is still in his sightline, or I go back, which is in his sightline. So he has me boxed, and he gets another shot at me. That's fine. I'm a scout, I dodged it, he missed, I keep going, he gets another shot on me. Oh my god. And this is really, I think Sniper is a really good way of exposing when you have a lack of cover, or when a route is exposed. And I think that's the primary thing I'd say about this route. This route is way too exposed for what it is, where it's vulnerable to players on high ground, it's vulnerable to this sight line. Even if you go in, you're vulnerable to this sight line, people have your exit. If you go in any further, you're still vulnerable to the main sight line, and they barely have to rotate, and anyone could be rotating off the high ground now and pinching you. So this route is it's not functional in terms of being a really, really good push route. On the other side, you have a little bit of a choke, but it's wide open. This has a problem with, I think, positioning and sightlines, and I'm trying to describe that in an example. So if I have a demo man and a sniper on this roof, the problem is they complement each other incredibly well. If I peek the sniper, right, I'm peeking the sniper. Unless I'm a sniper, I can't do anything against him. And even if he is a sniper, right, I snipe him, but I can't pressure the roof. So I'm not really stopping this demo from raining down hell, stopping my team from pushing in. But for me to peek the demo, it is necessary that I peek the sniper. So I can peek the sniper, but then I'm not peeking the demo. If I peek the demo, it's necessary for me for me to peek the sniper. And you can see this forces a sort of 2-on-1 crossfire. The demo is protecting the sniper's position. 2-on-1 makes this choke really brutal to push, and I only have one approach route. Now, even if I see that player back there, I know I can't approach, the demo's locking this out, I take the far ground route. This is exposed, and it doesn't give you any really good ground. I think any player who is really kind of like paying attention, they don't have that narrow FOV, they will be able to shut down this rotation, and you are so caught out. Even if you somehow manage to get all the way up here to the staircase door, any players in this area, the second they push you out through the door, look down there. Oh my god, you are exposed in all these spaces. There's no cover to work off at all. So you're just dead. There's like no recourse here. So I think in terms of counterplay, this route is really difficult, and it basically just boils down into one route, because I feel like the right route is largely dysfunctional. And the core of your map problem is these two routes not really being good against a team that really knows how to defend and is abusing it. And I think the core of the defense is basically just stacking this roof. In 6s, I really can't think of a reason why you wouldn't have your entire team on this shed, maybe even including your medic, because he can make this jump as a medic, especially with scout speed, right? So that's like, oh my god, you just have players on this jumping on and off, you have players there and there. Even if they have a sniper, that's a back angle, that's a sharp corner, so this is ironically bombable for the people who own mid, but pretty tough to bomb the other way, because I mean you're just going to get airspace denied by the players here. So yeah, I think it's really brutal mid to push. Moving on a little bit more, what's the next thing we should talk about? I don't want to talk about clipping or anything yet. I want to save it to the end. So let's talk about continuing routing into kind of like the mid itself. So for the mid itself, I think that right flank, that right flank, I'll call it a right flank, being open is good. I think this left flank being closed would be better. And it's not quite like Lakeside. You don't have to copy Lakeside, obviously. But having that sort of balance between the routes, I think, would be quite interesting, especially because this is the route with the health pack. I don't really think it needs to be on low ground as well. It kind of feels like a double whammy. In terms of the mid itself, it's not unusual to have a slope to break sightlines. I think that's fine, but I do think this one is a little bit awkward, just because I think most of the time you're like head peeking. It's like trench warfare, which is not really something I think of TF2. I think of TF2 as more being like a mobility shooter more than anything else. So instead of being kind of like a peeking cover shooter like this, it's really awkward to only see people's head and only be able to fight their heads. But yeah, I think that's kind of the core of the mid. I don't really have anything else I'd probably express besides this cliff route is something that would be very risky to push because it's so exposed. And in Highlander, basically, you'd never push your combo up this, especially because the potential for a pyro to just, goodbye, cliff send you. So I think with that out of the way, I'm going to go back and talk about nitpicks, and then I think that pretty much settles my review of the map. Okay, nitpicks. These things are purely opinionated clip rush fix things. I'm going to try to explain a little bit about clipping, but they're not really important. They're just things I would fix, especially for our release candidate map. So this shovel is going to give Dom a heart attack. This is just... I only see it because he mentions it so much, but nobody hangs up a shovel this way. You hang it with the head facing down. Otherwise, can you think how awkward it would be? Anyway, yeah. So it goes the other way. Already mentioned in terms of routing, this is fine. For this, turn on clip rushes so you can see. This is the primary culprit of it being so awkward. I don't really know... I don't have a huge opinion of how to fix this, but I just think you should be able to hold forward and for it to not be an issue most of the time. This is, I'm not sure if this is intentional, maybe so you can't stand on that lip, but then you should do a little, just tiny diagonal corner there and that fix that. And this probably should not have collisions, just in case someone is trying to back up and go right, just so they don't get caught in that corner. Moving forward, I'm going to talk about your clip rushes here. You have a very interesting way of clipping corners, is probably the way I'd say it. So this is one of those situations where I might want to do a walk up, and you can see it worked there, but there's times I would get stuck otherwise. So this is just very unreliable, and your other side doesn't work at all. I don't even know why you really did it. So it's a little bit confusing, but for the most part, you want to have people able to approach corners, and like I said, just hold W. Usually much better way is pretty much what you did back there with the pipe, just make it like a slope. If you're worried about players floating, for the most part, people don't mind that at all, in my experience, compared to getting caught. Like I said, if TF2 is a game about mobility, getting caught, losing your momentum, that is like much more frustrating. A good example of that is here. There's no clip rush here. See that staircase there? Because it's not clipped and I'm approaching at an angle and it's not inset at all, if I approach it straight on, I will get caught. Especially if I'm taking a corner tight, because I know that route is there and I'm trying to go tight, it's very easy for me to get caught in that corner, depending on how unlucky I am on the approach. If I'm trying to take the right corner as well, this door isn't clipped, so I can hit that wall as well. So if I'm chasing someone, you can see I'm trying to fight someone, get caught in the door, or if I'm backing up and I get caught on the back fence here. But it's just, you gotta be really careful about clipping when it comes to doors and staircases, I'd say. So let's talk about this. You do this here, here, here. I think this is called ladder clipping. Basically, you can go up a certain height in TF2 and your character jumps up it. And the only reason I can think why you do this is because you had a limited space to work with and you didn't want kind of like a floating clip brush. But there is a serious flaw to this, because you essentially are making stairs, unclipped stairs, when you do this clip. And the primary problem with unclipped stairs I'm about to show you is jumping into them, right? So all of these have ladder clips. If I just walk up it works fine, but if I jump, I get stuffed completely. And I have a perfect example of why that's bad right here, right? This is not clipped, right? So you can see I'm teleporting out that. It's basically like your ladder clips there. And I'm going to turn off my clip brushes real quick. There we go. And if I get the perfect angle and jump at it, you'll see I basically hit a wall without hitting the floor. And I will just go straight up. Come on, I can get the angle here. I'll go straight up, and I will lose my, oh, there we go. Exactly like that. I was holding W. So I hit that wall when I'm trying to jump. Jumping on stairs, if they're clipped, no issue. Jumping on ramps, no issue. But if you have this, whenever I jump, I hit that wall, and it feels absolutely horrible. Like, this looks like something you should jump. Intuitively, I want to jump this. But if I mistime the jump even just a little bit, I'm just going to go straight up and straight down. And that feels horrible. I hope you can emotionally feel the pain, or maybe visually, when that happens. So yeah, I'd be very careful about that. For the most part, I think you should just have the flat clip. It's okay if the player's floating a little bit off the ground, but just have it be a slope instead. Let me think if there's anything else. So yeah, talk about the main clip. I think that's probably most of the things I have to say about the map. I don't really want to extend this video too long. I hope the solutions made sense. For the most part, I just want to inspire you to kind of think about how you might want to change the map. And I really hate giving suggestions to a map that's this late in the design process. I think if you're an RC, me giving you feedback on, like, you know, blast open this route or delete this is just a big middle finger. So for the most part, if you're inspired to do something, I think you should take control of it and try to go towards that. But I really don't want to bully you into changing your map. It's your map, you're the map maker. Your vision is what makes the map yours and unique. And everything I said in this video, I don't want you to take it as gospel. If I convinced you of something and it seems like a good idea, I would go for it with it. Otherwise, if it's like, I didn't really get what he said here, but I might as well do it anyway, don't do that. Trust your instinct as a map maker, and good luck. Thanks for watching this video.